محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم وصل عليه. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا سيدي يا حبيب الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, first of all we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His blessings and His tawfiq and the strength that He gives us in order to be present in His house this evening, fulfilling our obligation of Salatul Isha, and then spending a few moments learning some knowledge of aspects that are Fardul Ain. And if you remember, I explained this in our previous session, that there are some types of knowledge which are Fardul Ain and others are Fardul Kifaya, which means knowledge that is personally obligatory in order to seek, and there's knowledge that is communal obligation, which is obligatory upon the community. And if a few people from the community fulfill that, then it covers for everyone. Fasting is a fard action. Fasting is an ibadah. It's the one of the pillars of our deen. So because the performance of fasting in the month of Ramadan is an obligation, it's a requirement, therefore the seeking of knowledge of it is also a requirement. It's an fard, an obligation upon everyone. So to know the rulings around it and the masail and the issues around it, how to keep the fast properly, what invalidates and what does not invalidate the fast, what is recommended, what is disliked, all of these things are Fardul Ain upon every individual who is required to fast. So Alhamdulillah, we covered half of what I was intending to do in our last session was completely cover the essentials of fasting, and then we can go into our next part of it, which was related to the i'tikaf, masail around i'tikaf, the spiritual retreat in the month of Ramadan. But I didn't realize the topics were quite vast and we only managed to cover half of it. So inshallah I will try to cover the next half of the masail of fasting, and we will also inshallah ta'ala cover Salatul Taraweeh and i'tikaf inshallah. And then in our final session next week, we will go through the masail of Zakaat. So just to recap, because there's some brothers, I see some new faces that weren't here in our previous session. So just a quick recap of some of the things we covered last week. So we covered the meaning of fasting and the types of fasting. We covered who is obliged to fast and who is exempted. And we were upon what factors invalidate and what factors do not invalidate the fast. So we were up to there. So we covered half of it. So we covered the meaning of it, which was literally fasting means to leave or abstain from something. And in Sharia, to abstain from food, drink, and any intimate relations with intention between Fajr and Maghrib, between dawn and sunset in this period of time. And the perfect fast is to refrain from all forms of unlawful and offensive actions. Anything which can make the fast makruh, i.e. Sinning or using bad language, swearing, all of these things come under offensiveness. However, it doesn't invalidate the fast unless someone eats or drinks deliberately without any excuse, or they engage in some activity which is unlawful that would render the fast invalid. So the perfect type of fast is refraining from not just food and drink, but all types of sins as well. We covered the types of fasting, so I'm not going to go through all of that. But what we know that in the month of Ramadan, the fasting is fard, it's an obligation. Outside of the month of Ramadan, you have other types of fasting which are optional, your nafil fasts. You have the sunnah fasts, which are recommended fasts. And you have those fasts which become wajib upon you when you make a vow, when you make a promise with Allah, oh Allah, I will fast for your sake. For example, someone was unwell or they had a problem in their life and they ask Allah Ta'ala, if you remove this from me, then I will fast for your sake for these many days. Either it's specified or it's left open. You don't say how many days or when you will be fasting. And then there's fasts which are makruh, which are disliked. Some are tahrimi, some are tanzihi, meaning they are severely disliked. For example, you can't fast on the days of Eid, is severely disliked to do that. And makruh tanzihi, slightly offensive to fast, like for example to single out the day of Jummah to fast, or to fast on the day of Jummah specifically, to specify Jummah for your fast. This will be makruh tanzihi, because the day of Jummah is supposed to be a day of Eid also. But if, as I mentioned last time, if a particular day falls on a Friday, for example, the day of Arafah falls on Friday, and you fast, this won't be makruh then, because you are fasting now a virtuous fast. But outside of it, if you fast in particular, specifically just a Friday, or a Friday, or if you fast the 10th of Muharram solely on its own without adding the 9th, the day before or the day after, then this will be makruh tanzihi. It will be disliked, but it will be close to permissible. It won't be sinful as it would be in that which is makruh tahrimi. So then we covered the intention. So this was important, if you remember. For fasting, it is very important, the intention. So you can't from the beginning of the month of Ramadan say that I will fast the entire month. Although that's your intention, it's a good intention. If someone has the intention, I will fast for the whole month of Ramadan this year, you will be rewarded for that intention. And if you are unable to fulfill it for any reason, because you had the intention to do so, inshallah, Allah Ta'ala will accept that intention and reward you for the intention. But the niyyah and intention for keeping the fast, you have to have a new one every single day before keeping that new fast. Because it's an act of worship, it's an obligation, or it's an obligatory fast. Therefore, you have to have a separate intention every single day. Now, how do you keep that intention? We went through that in some detail, that you have two times. One is from Maghrib prayer, because the night comes before the day. In our times, the night comes before the day. So this is why when the month of Ramadan will begin, you will pray your Salatul Taraweeh one evening before, and you will fast the next day. The reason being is because the night comes before the day. So the first of Ramadan will begin on the evening before, from Maghrib time, and therefore you will perform the Salatul Taraweeh the night before. So for the fast of Ramadan, for your nafil fast, and when you make a specified vow that you've specified a day, then what will happen is you will make the intention from Maghrib the evening before, and you will have the time, or you have the time from Maghrib the evening before all the way to before the beginning of Zawal time, which is known as Dahwatul Kubra, which is like before half of the day. So you have all of that time to make that intention. So even if you don't wake up for sahur, you've missed your eating, your sahur in the morning. So what you will now is you still have an option to have a firm intention. If you're still thinking, shall I fast or not fast, because I couldn't wake up and eat, and I have so much time, or these hours are so long, the fast will be so long, so therefore I might not be able to keep this fast, right? So if a person is still in two minds, then they still have that time to make a firm intention until the before half of the day. All right, until this period called Dahwatul Kubra, right? Until that person doesn't make a firm intention. So the firm intention is important, but the condition is you don't eat anything. So even if you miss sahur, you can make a firm intention, but the condition is you don't eat anything after Fajr. Does that make sense? So that you can do for optional fast as well, your nafil fast. So for example, when people will be fasting for after Laylatul Bara'a, after Shab Barat, the fast during the day, what will happen is this is an optional fast. For the intention, you have until the before half of the day. And does anyone remember how we worked that out? Those who were present last week, do you remember? Yeah, so from Fajr time till Maghrib, and then half that time, and then add it to Fajr time. Yeah, so for example, 4 o'clock, for example, is Fajr start, and 6 o'clock is Maghrib. How many hours is that? 14 hours. And then you divide it by 2, is 7. You add 7 hours to Fajr time, so 4 at 7, 11. So 11 o'clock will be your cutoff point to make a firm intention for those fasts. Obviously the timings will change accordingly of when it will be Fajr time and when it will be Maghrib. But for Qada fast, those you are making up, or Kafara fast, where you are giving a penalty for any fast you have broken intentionally, deliberately in the month of Ramadan. So the Kafara fast, the penalty that you're doing, and unspecified vows, where you make a vow and you've not specified the days that when you will be fasting. For that, your intention, you only have the time from Maghrib the evening before till Fajr. You cannot delay after that in order to make a firm intention for fasting. Okay, so we covered that, and then we went through who's exempted from fasting. These are the people, non-Muslim, a person whose mental faculties are not functioning correctly, insane person, a child, a sick person who has a genuine illness, a traveler, an elderly person, a woman who's expecting, a nursing woman who's feeding a child, and a woman who's on her monthly cycle. They're exempted from the fasting. Okay, we covered in some detail. You can listen to the lecture that we delivered last week, inshallah, on our social media platforms. The next important thing we did cover that you have to remember, this is for today's session as well. Remember these terms: kafara, qada, and fidya. These are 3 terms that you have to be familiar with. So kafara, what is kafara? Kafara is where you have to give a penalty for a fast that was deliberately broken and that was intentionally broken. And in the I think one of the slides we covered that where you won't have to give kafara, if there is, from amongst these 6 things we mentioned, if any one of them are present, you don't give a kafara. I think that will come further on. But bear in mind, what is kafara? Kafara is a penalty that you give in order to make up for that fast that was deliberately and intentionally broken without a valid reason. Okay? So what is the kafara? There's 3 things. Either you free a slave. If you cannot free a slave, then you fast 2 months consecutively, 60 days. And these have to be consecutively. There cannot be a break in between. If someone takes a break in between, they have to start all over again. Apart from sisters who, when they go through their monthly cycle, if that comes in between, they obviously they can't fast. What they will have to do, as soon as they finish, they have to, from that following day, begin to fast again. And if they have a one-day break, if they have that one-day break, then they can't. They have to start all over again as well. Okay. And if you can't do that, then feeding 60 needy people 2 meals a day. You can either feed 60 people or you can feed 1 needy person for 60 days. And this isn't where you can choose what you can do or what you want to do. It's actually in the order that it is. If it becomes difficult to fill one of them, genuinely difficult, then you go for the last option, which is the feeding. So freeing a slave, obviously it is difficult to free a slave because slavery isn't, we don't find it in the way that it used to be. Yeah, although there is modern forms of slavery, but it's difficult to determine who's under slavery and who's not. So in order to free someone from slavery, it does become difficult. If you can't do that, then obviously 60 days of fasting. Now, if someone can't do 60 days of fasting consecutively for 2 months, there's a genuine reason that they can't do that, then they will have the option of the feeding 60 people. So we can't jump. Qada means the fast that you break or the fast that you miss, you make up for it. Now the qada is done when you broke the fast and it was accidentally, or you broke the fast due to a valid reason, a medical reason for example, and you had to break the fast. There's no kafara for that because it was a valid reason, but there will be a qada for it. You will have to make up for that fast outside of the month of Ramadan. So when you give kafara, with kafara, you have to also do 1 extra day of qada. So if you've done 60 fasts, to make up for, as a penalty, then you have to add 1 more day as a qada. But the qada one, that can be done at a separate time as well. There's no time specification for the qada, but for the kafara, the 60 fasts have to be consecutively. They have to be consecutively. But the extra qada that you have to do for that 1 day that was broken, that has to be done also, but that can be done on a separate time, or you can do it as a 61st day. Okay? Fidya, as I mentioned before, this is where a person, so fidya, there's a misconception, oh, I can't fast, I won't be able to do it this month, or there's a few days I will be missing, and a person says, you know, I will just give a fidya for the days I miss. If a person, so remember these conditions for fidya. If a person cannot fast at all in the month of Ramadan, or outside of it, they cannot fast at all in the month nor outside of it. They can't fast, right? Because of their health condition or for whatever genuine reason they can't fast even outside of the month of Ramadan. For example, if in the summer months the days are long, so a person can't fast because the hours are too long and they need to take some particular medicine, or due to their health or due to their age, they're unable to fast the long hours. But in winter time, when the days are shorter, they're able to fast, then they cannot give fidya in order to make up. They will have to do qada. So fidya won't suffice. If you do give fidya, then it will do what? It will be counted as a nafal sadaqah from you. It's a good thing. It will be counted as charity, but it won't make up for the fasts that are missed. So if you are able to fast in the shorter days, then you must fast as qada in the shorter days in the winter times. So fidya to complete for the fast that you cannot do, or the ones that are missed, will only cover if one cannot fast inside of month of Ramadan nor outside of it throughout the year. Does that make sense? Or any other time of the year. And a person is not expected to regain their ability. So if a person reaches such an old age where they will not be able to regain their ability to fast, even afterwards they have no hope for that, or someone who is suffering from such a chronic illness that they have no hope for regaining any strength or ability, then they can give fidya. But someone who is only unwell for the month of Ramadan, is unwell, but they have hope, or they know they will regain their ability afterwards, then they can't give fidya. It has to be qaza. Does that make sense? So fidya just can't be given. Okay, I couldn't fast, now I'll just give fidya. It won't cover it. It will only be counted as sadaqah, as charity, but it won't cover for the fast. These are the conditions for fidya. Okay, so there are possible scenarios. Fast is invalidated, fast is not invalidated. So when fast is invalidated, it requires qada only, or requires kafara and qaza, or the fast is not invalidated, it will be makruh, or there is nothing, it requires nothing, and nor is it makruh. So if you remember, we mentioned some of these conditions. If a person is forced to break the fast, is compelled under compulsion to break the fast, there will be no kafara for that. Person breaks the fast due to an illness or a necessity, then there will be no kafara if you break that fast. If a fast was broken accidentally, then there is no... So this is a difference. Forgetfully and accidentally are two different things. Yes? One is where you've completely forgotten, even if you deliberately ate, but you forgot you were fasting, then obviously the fast doesn't break. You genuinely forgot you weren't fasting. But accidentally means you know you are fasting, but you done something, you done an action by which your fast broke, but it was accidentally. For example, a person is making wudu, they put water in their mouth, and whilst they were rinsing their mouth or gargling, water went down their throat. That would, although you know you're fasting, some water went down your throat, your fast will break. Your fast will break, but there will be no kafara. There will be only qada for it because it was accidentally broken. Yeah? Yes, if your intention was to drink the water, then there would be kafara. Yeah? Does that make sense? But accidentally, genuinely, it was your action that did it. You knew you're fasting, but it was accidentally, you had no intention of swallowing, but you swallowed some water, then that would be, it would break the fast, and there will be no kafara, only qaza. Fast was broken of the month of Ramadan. I explained this, that you cannot do, kafara is not given for nafil fast that you break. It's only for the month of Ramadan fast. And the fast is to be broken within the month of Ramadan. Meaning, if someone is doing a qada fast and it was a qada of Ramadan and he broke it, then there's no kafara on that. Okay? Alright, let's look at factors which invalidate the fasting. They require a qada and a kafara. They require a qada and a kafara. So if you consume something which is nutrition or medicine intentionally without a shari reason, without a medical reason, then you will have, your fast is broken and you will have to do a qada for it, the one qada for it, as well as kafara. Yes? So intentionally you've taken something, consumed it, which is nutritious and which is medicine. So you weren't feeling unwell, but you took that medicine, or your illness wasn't as much. For example, someone's got a headache, but it wasn't that much of a headache where it would have required you to break your fast. Yeah? So if that is done intentionally, obviously your fast is broken, but you will have to give qada as well as a kafara. To smoke whilst fasting, this will require qada and kafara. So if you smoke, if you're a smoker, then and you smoke this intentionally, then you will require qada and kafara. And the reason why is because because you're a habitual smoker. You've got a habit of smoking, and it's in order to relieve your urges. Someone has the urge of smoking because they're addicted. So someone who's an addicted smoker, if they were to inhale the smoke intentionally, because they're fulfilling their urge, therefore they will require a qada and kafara if that fast is deliberately broken. Okay? And obviously to engage in relations intentionally with complete fulfillment of pleasure, that will require qada and kafara. Factors which invalidate fasting but require only qada. There's no kafara. Yeah, you don't have to give the penalty of those things that we mentioned. Only qada, just to make up the fast for the fast that you break. Consuming an object not normally used as nutrition or medicine. So for example, someone ate paper, for example, or someone ate, I don't know, picked up a stone and put it in their mouth, or soil, or whatever, anything that's not used normally as nutrition, you consume it, you eat it, because it's not something that will relieve your hunger, or it would not something that is normally used as a nutrition. If you consume that, even deliberately, there will be no kafara, only qaza. Okay? And similar with medicine. If it's not a medicine and you've consumed it, then it will only require something that is not normally used as medicine, then it will only require a qada and there will be no kafara. We mentioned this already, broke the fast accidentally. As I mentioned, if someone puts their water up their nose to rinse their nose whilst making wudu, and if that water goes past and into either it goes down their throat, so obviously these are connected, aren't they? So if the water goes so back and it comes down and they feel that water go down their throat, that will break the fast. But because it was accidentally, there's no kafara, there will only be qada. Consuming nutrition or medicine with a legal or medical excuse. So as I mentioned before, if you take it for a legal reason, here legal means shari reason, that which is regarded as valid in the sharia, or any medical reason a person had to break their fast, then there is no kafara, only qaza. Experience incomplete fulfillment of desire through relations. So if there is any discharge whilst touching or whatever, then there will only, the fast is broken, but there's no kafara, is only qada. Okay? Self-induced vomiting, mouthful or more. What does it mean by that? It means that you deliberately vomit. You make yourself vomit. If this is less than a mouthful, then the fast will not break. But if it's more than a mouthful, then the fast will break, but there will be no kafara, only qada. What does it mean by mouthful? Mouthful means that you are unable to keep it in. You're unable to control it. So it comes out and you're unable to control it. That is a mouthful. So if it is less than a mouthful, then it won't. Where you can control it, then it won't. Then it won't break the fast. But if it's a mouthful or more, it will break the fast. And the condition is you've done it yourself, deliberately. Self-induced vomiting, right? That which comes out naturally and you didn't deliberately make yourself vomit, or it was less than a mouthful, your fast will not break. Okay? So factors which do not nullify fasting require no qada or kafara. So eating, drinking, or engaging in relations forgetfully. Okay, so if you forgetfully do eating and drinking that you forgot you were fasting, then obviously your fast is still valid, it won't break. As I mentioned before, involuntary vomiting or forced vomiting less than a mouthful, waking up in a state where you are in a state of janaba, you need to have a ghusl. Waking up in that state whilst you were asleep, then what will happen is you won't require, your fast will not break. So if you were fasting, you fell asleep, and during your sleep you had a dream because of which there was a discharge, there will be no kafara or qaza, because your fast will not break for that reason. Swallowing something small and unavoidable, it's supposed to say unavoidable, okay? Swallowing something small and unavoidable will not break your fast. So for example, if you walk in to a room and there's steam, okay? So when you walked in, there's steam, because anything which has a susceptible body to it, anything which has particles, and that can be felt or seen, anything of that goes into your body through your natural openings, like i.e. the mouth, the nose. So anything which goes through them, which is a natural opening, and it goes down your throat or enters into your stomach or goes towards the brain, it will what? Invalidate the fasting. Yeah? But because this was unavoidable, you walked into a room and there was steam in there, and steam obviously has water particles. But what will happen is because you came into contact with it and it was unavoidable, your fast will not break. However, if someone takes steam deliberately, if someone took steam deliberately, they bought they had some, I don't know, a bowl of something they've put in, and they're taking that steam in deliberately, then it will break the fast. If that is sniffed up, because it will go down your throat. Similarly, if, for example, someone burnt, you have incense, oud, or, people burn incense for a nice smell. If it was lit in the room, it was put in the room, you've walked into the room and you've inhaled that, then this will not invalidate the fasting because it was something you couldn't avoid. But if you bring that close to yourself in order to breathe that incense in, because it has a acceptable body, it will break your fast. But it will not, you will require no qada or kafara for it. Or if you were yawning and there was a fly and went down your throat, because you couldn't avoid it, your fast will not break. Okay? Your fast will not break. So anything you do deliberately that will allow something which is with a susceptible body to go into your body through a natural opening. Not something, for example, that will go through your pores of the skin. So, for example, someone has a shower and they feel the coolness of that water inside their body because it has what? It has gone through the pores of their skin. Even though you feel the coolness of it inside your body, it won't invalidate your fast. Unless you take the water through one of your natural openings. Does that make sense? Yeah. So these things don't nullify fasting if you have walked in. It's the same, for example, if someone's smoking, and you happen to walk past that person, but because that person is smoking, you couldn't avoid, and you didn't know, and you've inhaled that smoke, your fast will not break. But if you knew he is smoking and you go and stand next to the person and right up close, and that smoke enters, then it will invalidate your fast. But there will be no requirement of qada or, no requirement of kafara. Yeah? Does that make sense? If you, for example, eaten something and there was a bit of, a piece of it left in your teeth or in your mouth, which was less than the size of a chickpea, it was in your mouth and then you swallow it. For example, it was stuck between the teeth and you swallow it, it will not break your fast. Yes, if a person takes it out of the mouth and then put it back in, then it will break the fast. Okay? But if it's in your mouth, stuck in between the teeth, less than the size of a chickpea, if it was bigger than that, then it will break the fast. Using airdrops, if your airdrop is intact, because there is no, the eardrum, it blocks anything going in. Yes, so if the eardrum is intact and you put airdrops in, then it won't. It won't, even if water goes in, it won't break the fast. But if your eardrum is broken and water goes in, or you put something in and it goes beyond that, then it will break your fast. Okay? Cupping, obviously the blood is drawn out, this won't break your fast. Factors which are offensive, which are makruh, any action that will weaken the fasting person. So for example, if someone goes to the gym, they like to exercise or whatever, if you know that this will weaken you, then it will be makruh to do that. Because obviously once you're weak, you're going to require, you'd become thirsty, you would want some energy. So because you did that deliberately to yourself, it will be makruh. So don't do anything that will make you even more weaker. Yeah? But if someone knows that this won't affect him, it's their daily routine, then it's fine. But if it is, then this will be makruh. Similarly with cupping, although cupping is permissible, it won't break your fast. But again, if it is to weaken you, then don't do it. It's better not to do it. Yeah. And it's similar with a blood test, or similar to some people give blood, don't they? Blood donation, right? So that won't break your fast either. But if it is to make you weak, then obviously it will be makruh to do it. Do it outside of the month of Ramadan if you can. Tasting or chewing something, this is makruh, as long as you don't swallow it. So if someone, for example, put something in their mouth and they tasted it, but they did not swallow their saliva or whatever they put into their mouth, this is the same this is why toothpaste, for example, is said is makruh. Using especially with flavors, because there's a risk of it going down your throat, and because of that risk, it is makruh. Obviously, it won't break your fast unless you haven't swallowed it. But because of some of the toothpaste have a very strong minty flavor, and because you can taste it, and the taste of it is, you can feel it in your throat, this is the reason why it said it is makruh. Unless you don't swallow it, it won't break it. But it will be makruh to use it because of the risk of swallowing some particles, or because of the flavor of the toothpaste. So to taste something or chew something like a chewing gum, but unless you don't swallow that, it won't break. But because you can taste it, because you can feel the taste, therefore it will be makruh. Yeah? So doing any activity that would lead to engaging in any type of conjugal relations, this is also makruh. Okay, if a person can't control themselves, then they should stay away. Yeah. Gathering saliva in the mouth and swallowing it. So gathering saliva purposefully in your mouth. Someone keeps on gathering saliva, gathering, and then swallowing it. This is also makruh. Okay, it doesn't break your fast, but it's also makruh. So obviously, naturally swallowing your saliva, naturally, right? This is not makruh, obviously. But if someone keeps on gathering it in their mouth and then swallowing it, this will come under being makruh. It's not going to break your fast unless someone takes it out the mouth and puts it back in. Committing sins and backbiting. As we mentioned before, this will be makruh. So if someone backbites or swears, then it will make your fast makruh because of the decreasement in reward, and because of the fact that these are sins. So this will make your fasting makruh. I mentioned that before, using toothpaste or flavored toothstick. Delaying in breaking the fast, this is also makruh. So if it's iftar time and you've delayed it, not just 1 or 2 minutes or a few minutes, if you delay it, like for example, half an hour, this will be makruh. So deliberately delaying the iftar, this is makruh. Okay? It's offensive to do that. Factors which are non-offensive, using toothbrush or miswak. So if you have a toothbrush without toothpaste or a miswak, then this is obviously non-offensive. Rinsing mouth and nose whilst making wudu or ghusl. However, as I mentioned before, you have to be careful. So you can't do the full gargling. Right? So if someone makes ghusl, one of the conditions in a ghusl is that you have to make the water reach the back of your throat, and you have to gargle. Similar with the nose, when you rinse it, it should reach the bone. That's the conditions of ghusl. But whilst fasting, you are excused for that even if you just rinse your mouth and avoid the gargling, this will be sufficient, because it can affect your fast if swallowed, and there's a risk of swallowing. Similarly with the water, do not push it too much back up, otherwise there's a risk of it going down the nose and into your throat. Taking a shower, applying scent. Again, with scent, you have to be careful. when you apply it on your body, but try not to be too close so that any particles go up your nose or into your mouth. Otherwise, it will break your fast, because it has a susceptible body. Okay? But if that scent, for example, you put it on your body and you feel it in your, for example, the pores of your skin, then that won't, because that's not a natural opening. Okay? Applying oil, you can apply oil. Even if that oil is absorbed by your skin, it won't break the fast, because the pores are not a natural opening into your body, nor does it reach your stomach or your throat. Applying kuhl, surma and antimony in your eyes, this is also permissible. There's just a few things that I want to mention. We do get these questions. Some of you may have these questions. First, let me deal with this one, applying kuhl and antimony. Then there's a question about the eye drops. Are we allowed to put the eye drops or not? Now, the ulama have two views here. One is they say completely. One view is the traditional view, where they say completely you can use eye drops, no problem whatsoever, because you can apply surma, you can apply antimony in your eyes, and therefore that doesn't break your fast. So so to make an analogy on that, if you use it, it won't. However, other ulama, and based upon new research, is that there is a route from the eyes, there's a route that goes to your throat. And this is why at times, when you put something in your eye, you can feel it in your throat. So what they say is that if you do put it in, you have to be careful. And if you do feel it in your throat, you see something out, it will break your fast because of that route there. Others say no, because it's not a natural opening, therefore it should not break the fast. Best thing is, respecting both opinions, best thing is to avoid as much as you can. Surma is permitted because of the Prophet ﷺ's saying, but anything other than that, which is like the eye drops or whatever, even when you wear contact lens, you have to put a solution on it. Try to avoid as much as you can. If you need to wear glasses for the month of Ramadan while fasting, wear glasses. Don't put your fast at a risk, right? So more cautious would be to avoid it as much as you can, right? So to put that in, because there is a route between the eyes and the throat. So if anything goes into the throat, which is, if something goes in the throat, obviously it will go down your digestive tract, into your digestive tract, and anything that goes into there will break the fast. So that's why it's important that you avoid that. Then there's a question about injections. Some people might take injections for medicinal purposes. Some people, for example, they take insulin, or they take, as long as the injection is not put directly into the stomach. If the injection is intramuscular in your muscles, then it won't break your fast. Even if it's intravenous, the injection will not break your fast. And the reason for that, again, in the Hanafi school, I'm talking about Hanafis, I'm not sure about other schools of thought. In the Hanafi school, there's a traditional fatwa and opinion of the classical ulama, which is what I mentioned before. Because the needle is injected into your skin, and because it is going into the body through not a natural opening. So your natural opening is what? Your mouth, your nose, these are your natural openings. So anything that is not going through there, or through the rear side of a person, right? If that are your natural openings. If it's going in through the skin, they're not natural openings of the thing, of your body. Okay, so if injection is taken as intramuscular or intravenous, meaning into the muscles or into the veins, and it's going into your bloodstream, then they say the traditional and the majority of the Hanafi ulama are of the opinion it does not break. There is contemporary ulama in the Hanafi school who do say that if the injection taken is for nutrition purposes. For example, someone's diabetic and they take glucose, or if medicine is taken in through the body, because the purpose of it is the same. Whether you take it orally or whether you take it as injection, the purpose of it is the same, so therefore it should break. So that is the ruling of some of the contemporary, but majority of the Hanafi scholars, they say traditionally that because it is going through the pores of the skin, and one of the analogy they give is if you get bitten by a snake, or you get stung by an insect which has poison, and that poison enters your body, or the snake bite, the poison will enter into your body, your fast won't break, right? So they make the analogy of the sting or the bite of the snake to the injection. So even if that enters into your body, it shouldn't break. So they use that analogy, and plus the natural, that is not your natural opening. But others are looking at the purpose of why are you taking the medicine, or why, and what is the purpose of it. Okay? But here, one thing to keep in mind is, the ulama who argue that it doesn't break, they do have a strong argument in the sense that they say look, the month of Ramadan and fasting of Ramadan is a fard, and it's an obligation upon them, and the month of Ramadan is a special month in which, in order to reap its benefits completely, why should someone be deprived of it? Why should someone be deprived of it if there is a traditional ruling in our school, and the majority of the ulama and fuqaha go for that ruling? So why deprive of someone if, for example, if they have to take an injection because of their illness, right? And because there is a traditional ruling in our school of thought, and the majority of ulama hold this opinion, then why not allow them to at least not be deprived of fasting and take this, easiness of taking that injection? So there is a whole debate of ulama, but the traditional view and the default position in the Hanafi school is that injections don't break your fast. But there are contemporary ulama who are re-looking, and they're saying, if something is like, for example, vitamins and something which is nutritious, then I would personally say avoid that. Because the reason why we don't eat and drink is so that our body is not nourished. That's one of the reasons. So if the injections hold some sort of nourishment, and you're taking nourishment from the injection, then it defeats the purpose, right? So as long as they're not injections which are nutritious, or they give a nourishment to the body, but if they are medicinal purposes and it's for medicine, then there is that room in our school, in the Hanafi school, that your fast will not break. So in order to benefit from the fasting and the blessings of it, don't be deprived of it. So that's something that I wanted to share with you, and these are questions that do come up in the month of Ramadan. Is that okay? Yeah? So if someone, imsak means to, continue out of respect. If your fast is broken, then out of respect, don't eat or drink anything. This is called imsak, right? So imsak for the rest of the day. Even if your fast is broken, to avoid eating and drinking out of respect for the fast or for the people who are fasting. So if one breaks fast accidentally or purposefully or forced, if a traveler arrives home and was not fasting in a journey, right? So if he's arrived home, then obviously people in his family, they will be fasting. So out of respect for them, don't eat in front of them or avoid eating out of respect. A woman who finishes her monthly, the haid, the cycle, or her postnatal after childbirth, when she finishes, and it's in the month of Ramadan, and it is still fasting, the day is still there, sunset hasn't come in, then again it will be recommended, or out of respect, to avoid eating and drinking, out of respect. If someone is going to, then go into a different room, go into a different place, just out of respect for that. Non-Muslim who embraces Islam. So if he becomes a Muslim during the day, it's a day of fasting, then it will be recommended for him to not eat anything out of respect. If he eats, there's no harm, but just out of respect. And similarly with a child who becomes an adult through puberty, then they are also recommended to do that. Some of the recommended actions: eat sahur. So some people don't eat their sahri or don't feel like it. It's a sunnah, it's recommended. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned that the difference between us and the others, i.e. the people of the book, is the eating of sahur. Okay? And there's nur in it, there's barakah in it, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. Delaying suhoor nearer to the beginning of time of Fajr, this is also recommended. Not finishing your fast like an hour before, or 2 hours before. Delaying it until Fajr, this is recommended. Yes, if it's difficult for someone, they can't, then that's also fine. But what is sunnah, is what is recommended, is to delay it nearer to the time of Fajr. Hastening to break the fast immediately after sunset and not delaying it too much, this is also sunnah and recommended. Breaking fast with odd number of dates, something sweet or water, this is also recommended and sunnah. Is everyone okay up to there? Yeah? Any questions? So this was our fasting part done. Are you tired or? Be honest, please. After you've just come in. And you say. Otherwise we'll have to do an extra session in the last week then. Don't be shy. What we'll do is then we'll leave the i'tikaf out because it's quite lengthy, and what we'll do is we'll do Taraweeh prayers, yeah? We'll just cover the Taraweeh prayers quickly because this isn't that long. Taraweeh prayers, these are the prayers, the extra prayers we pray in the month of Ramadan. Okay, there's always this question comes up in the month of Ramadan, and then there's a lot of contention between friends and people, because some people read 8, other people read 20, and then there's always this contention between people. And then in the masjids as well, we're announcing, those who are reading 8, if you can please be mindful of the one who are reading 20, or rather than coming in the month of Ramadan and all of these issues are brought up, it's better to know beforehand in regards to these. Now, Taraweeh prayers, you have to first of all understand, is sunnah mu'akkada. Okay, they're not fard, they're not wajib, they are emphasized sunnah, and they are also, if they are read in the masjid, then it's kifaya. Yeah, sunnah mu'akkada, kifaya. If few people complete this, it covers for everyone. And it can also be performed in the home. People can pray in their homes if they want, right? Obviously in the masjid, masjid shouldn't be abandoned. So that's why we said sunnah mu'akkada kifaya, right? A few people should pray in the masjid. So this is to pray for both men and women. Sunnah mu'akkada for both men and women. Prayer consists of 20 rakats. Okay, the Taraweeh prayer consists of how many? 20 rakats, and there is ijma upon this. There is a consensus upon this. Okay, what does it mean by ijma? What does it mean by ijma? Ijma means there is a consensus upon it, meaning all of the 4 schools of thought, the 4 Sunni schools of thought, Hanafi, Shafi, Maliki, Hanbali, they all agree that it is not less than 20 rakats. They all agree upon this. Okay, this 8 rakat is something new. This 8 rakat Taraweeh prayer is something new. What we understand about the 8 rakat is that the 8 rakat, and then there's different narrations which mention different number of rakats of the tahajjud prayer. Okay, sometimes you'll find 13, some you'll find 15 also. That is with the 3 rakat witr added to it, or 1 rakat witr. Now in the schools of thought, in the Hanafis, there's 3 rakats. In some of the other schools, like I think the Shafi'i, they say that there is one rakat. And some of them, what they do is they pray one rakat, they finish and then they pray two rakats, or they pray two rakats and then they finish and then they pray an extra one rakat. Okay, so there's a difference of opinion in the school, but the Hanafis, there's 3 witr. Okay, the witr that we pray in Isha are what? They're 3. So the hadith that's normally used for 8 rakats of Taraweeh from the Sahih of Imam al-Bukhari, it comes in 2 places in the Sahih of Bukhari, Imam Bukhari. One in the chapter of Salatul Taraweeh, one in the chapter of Salatul Tahajjud. So that hadith which talks about the Prophet ﷺ praying 8, Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha al-Mu'mineen was asked about the Prophet ﷺ prayer. She answered that he used to pray 8 fi Ramadan wa ghayri Ramadan. He used to pray 8 in Ramadan and outside of Ramadan. So the answer is in that hadith itself, that because there's no Salatul Taraweeh outside of Ramadan. So it's referring to Tahajjud prayer. So he used to pray 8 in Ramadan, Tahajjud prayer, and 8 outside of Ramadan, the Tahajjud prayer. Although the Tahajjud prayer minimum is 2 and maximum is 12. Yeah, so sometimes he would pray, most of the time he would pray 8. So this is referring to his Tahajjud prayer. The 20 rakat, which is according to all of the schools of thought, only Imam Malik, he has 4 opinions. One opinion of Imam Malik is 21 rakats, one of it is 36 rakats, one is 39 rakats, and one is 41 rakats. Why does Imam Malik have all these different? Because Imam Malik was a scholar of Medina, right? And he would always, one of the usuls in his school of thought was to look at the practice of the people of Medina. But Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, because in Makkah Sharif, in Makkatul Mukarramah, what do they do, and what they still do is after every 4 rakah, after 4 rakats we have a break, don't we? Right? And this is what is known as the tarweeha. Or this is the reason why it's known as Taraweeh. Because from the word araha, rest. So after every 4 there's a rest, that we take a rest. So what the people in Makkah Sharif do, or used to do and still do, is after every 4 they would do tawaf around the Kaaba. Right? They would perform 7 circuits of tawaf around the Kaaba. So Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, because we can't perform tawaf here, so let's work out how long it will take. How long does it take to make tawaf? So because we can't do tawaf, what we will do, we will read extra rakats. We will pray extra rakats. So they would add extra 4 rakats. So they pray 4, and then they would add extra 4 in place of the tawaf. So this is why they have some extra rakats. So if you see, his first opinion is 21 rakats, which is 20 rakat Taraweeh, 1 rakat witr. So remember I said 1 or 3. Then the most famous opinion in the Maliki school is the 36 rakats. That's why I highlighted it. So if we look at 36, 39 and 41, if you regard, for example, so you've got the 4 rakats and then he would add the 4. So if you have 4 rests, what's 4 times 4? 16. If you have 4 rests, so in place of the rest you read 4 rakats. Yeah, so they're not resting, they're reading the extra 4. Yeah, so you have 16. So add 20 and 16, you have 36 rakats. Okay, so originally Imam Malik is also saying there's 20 rakats, but they're adding the extra 16 because they cannot perform tawaf, so they're praying 4 rakats in place. The 39 rakats is actually 36 rakats, add 3 rakat witr. Yeah? And the 41 rakats is what? If you do 20 rakats and you have 5 rests. So the 5 rests, in place of the 5 rests, you have 4 rakats again. So do 4 times 5, 20. 20 at 20, 40 rakats, or 1 rakat witr, 41. So even if you look at Imam Malik's opinion, his original opinion is what? 20 rakats. But he is only adding them because they can't make tawaf, so they read an extra 4. So all of the 4 schools of thought, so even now in the Haramain al-Sharif, even Makkah Sharif, Medina Sharif, they read 20 rakats Taraweeh. So the Hanbalis, they do 20 rakats. So this 8 rakat is an opinion which is not part of the 4 schools of thought. The 4 Sunni schools of thought, it is outside of it. So there is ijma upon this that it is 20 rakat, and for the last over 1200 years, they have been performing 20 rakats. And just to finish, I'm just going to mention a few narrations to you from, this is Imam Bayhaqi's Sunan al-Kubra, it's a book of hadith. Imam Bayhaqi was a great Shafi'i scholar and a great muhaddith, okay? And these are some narrations mentioned here. What was the practice of the Sahaba Ridwanullahi Ajmain regarding this? There's one hadith where he mentions, where he records, this is actually a hadith of Sayyidina Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anh, that the Prophet alayhi salatu himself, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي في شهر رمضان في غير جماعة ب20 ركعة والوتر. That the Prophet ﷺ would pray in Ramadan without Jamaat 20 rakats with witr. This is a hadith mentioned in the Sunan of Imam al-Bayhaqi, that the Prophet ﷺ would pray in Ramadan 20 rakats with witr, with no Jama'ah. So we know the Prophet ﷺ, when the Salatul Taraweeh, when he began to read, he did it for 3 days, 3 nights where people joined him. So there was 3 nights of Jama'ah, but then he stopped. He didn't come out, he read it on his own. And the reason for that was because the Prophet ﷺ did not want it to become an obligation, a fard, or prescribed. It would have been difficult for people, right? So the Prophet ﷺ did not come out for, so he used to pray on his own without Jamaat 20 rakats. So this is a hadith. Although some muhaddiseen have said this is a weak hadith, even though it's weak, it's not fabricated, even if it's weak, but the actions of the Sahaba and the Ummah, the ijma of the Ummah tells us that this hadith is acceptable, is sound. Right? So you can use this as an evidence for that. Then we know that Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he was the one who started the Jama'ah of Taraweeh collectively in his time. When he saw people praying separately, what did he do? He gathered everyone together behind one Imam, Sayyidina Ubay bin Ka'b radiallahu anhu. So this hadith tells us that, and this is also mentioned in the Muwatta of Imam Malik rahimahullah, that an Yazid ibn Rumman, Imam Malik narrates from Yazid bin Rumman, he says, كان الناس يقومون في زمان عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه في رمضان ب23 ركعة. That in the time of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the people were praying in Ramadan 23 rak'ah. So 20 rak'ah Taraweeh and 3 rak'ah Witr. 23 rak'ah. And it also mentions another hadith that in the time of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anh, in Ramadan, في شهر رمضان ب20 ركعة قال وكانوا يقرؤون بالمئين. That we were praying in the month of Ramadan 20 rak'ah, and they were reciting with ma'in. Ma'in are those surahs which have 100 ayat in. Those chapters which have 100 verses in, right? They are known as the ma'in verses. You have some surahs which are known as sab'ut tiwal, the 7 long surahs. They are more than 100 verses. They are much longer than that. Then you have certain chapters in the Quran, surahs which have approximately 100 ayats in them. They are known as ma'in. So the narrator, he says that in the time of Sayyidina Umar, we were reading 20 rakat, and they were reciting in it those surahs which had 100 ayat, or they were reciting 100 ayat in those rakats. وَكَانُوا يَتَوَكَّعُونَ عَلَىٰ أُسِيِّهِمْ فِي أَهْدِ عُثْمَانِ ibn Affan مِنْ شِدَّةِ الْقِيَامِ. And he says, in the time of Sayyidina Uthman, it used to become so hard to stand and they would become so long that in the time of Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anh, we used to have to take support of our sticks. We used to lean on our sticks because of the shiddat qiyam, because of the shiddah of standing. So even in the time of Sayyidina Uthman, they would pray 20 rakats. And then we come to the time of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala an, karamallahu wajhul kareem. The narration mentions that in the time of Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajhul kareem, Da'al Qurra, he would call the Qadis, he would call the reciters in the month of Ramadan, and he would command them from فَأَمَرَ مِنْهُمْ رَجُلًا, he would command from amongst them a person, يُسَلِّي بِالنَّاسِ, to lead the people in prayer, 20 rak'ah, 20 rakats. So even Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh, karamallahu wajhul kareem, in his time, he would what? He would command the Qurra, the people who were Qadis, to lead the people in 20 rakats in the month of Ramadan. And there's many other narrations. So in the time, our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, 20 rakat, in the time of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anh, in the time of Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anh, and also in the time of Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajhul kareem, people were praying 20 raka'at taraweeh. And this has been the practice since. This has been the practice since. So there is ijma upon this. So please bear that in your mind. It is 20 rak'at taraweeh. It is not 8 rak'at. Yes, if someone prays 8 because of hardship, because they can't, or whatever reason, but they believe it's 20, that's fine, you know. But if someone is saying, no, it is only 8, then that means you are accusing the rest of the ummah for doing something which is, that they don't know. So if someone wants to pray 8 or 10 or 12, that's up to them. But you cannot say it is only 8. Yes, it is actually 20, which is proven from ijma. May Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq to understand, inshallah. And Allah Ta'ala accept it from us. Apologies, we couldn't go through the i'tikaf. Maybe we'll have to add an extra session because we also have zakat to cover. May Allah Ta'ala accept it from us. If there isn't any questions, we'll inshallah finish there. Make dua. There's tea and biscuits also prepared for you at the back, inshallah Ta'ala. Okay. Any questions or? There is a mention of Saturday as well. Yeah, there is a mention of just Saturday on its own. Yeah. It's from I think it's from a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. I'm not exactly sure the reason for it. Yeah. Yeah. If I go back to it, yeah. It's in that order, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's in that order, and the reason why it's in that order, one of the reasons, is because, in the Holy Quran, if I can remember the ayat correctly, I think it's Suratul Mujadala, the 28th juz, the beginning of the 28th juz. There's a kafara for zihar, right? So the same kafara is here. So the verses of the Quran for that kafara are in that order. So free a slave, if you cannot, then fast, and if you cannot, then feed. So it's in that order. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes, brother. MashaAllah, you're in i'tikaf, my brother. Alhamdulillah, you're here, mashallah, 24 hours. Yeah, maybe next session or, we'll try. I'tikaf's not very long. So we can either do it before and then go into zakat, inshallah, or we'll see if we, inshallah. Okay, jazakumullah khair. آمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم إنا نسألك فعل الخيرات وترك المنكرات وحب المساكين. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا غفور يا غفور يا كريم. اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية في ديننا ودنيانا وفي أهلنا وفي أموالنا وفي أولادنا. ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا حي يا قيوم يا رب العالمين, accept our coming together for the sole purpose of learning something about your deen. Ya Allah, accept it from us if there were any shortcomings or anything we may have said. Ya Allah, please forgive us. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, allow each and every single one of us to seek beneficial knowledge and allow it to be beneficial for all of us and for our families, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, allow us to fulfill our obligations to you. Ya Allah, the month of Ramadan is coming. Allow us to prepare for it in the best way, Ya Allah, and allow us to completely benefit from all of the blessings and mercy and rewards that you have placed in it. Ya Allah, give us strength to reach the month of Ramadan. Ya Allah, the night of mid-Sha'ban is coming. Ya Allah, shower your infinite blessing and mercy upon each and every single one of us. Ya Allah, forgive our sins, O Allah, and give us tawfiq to make sincere tawbah and repentance in your court. Those who are suffering, Ya Allah, remove all types of suffering and alleviate their suffering from them. In particular, those who are suffering in Palestine. Ya Allah, those who are being oppressed, Ya Allah, remove oppression from them. Ya Allah, eliminate the occupation and the oppression and the tyranny of the Zionists, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, grant the people of Palestine complete freedom, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, protect them and be of aid to them and assistance to them, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, accept our du'as, inshallah. Ya Allah, wherever there are people suffering from injustice, Ya Allah, remove all types of injustice from them, Ya Allah. Those who are imprisoned wrongfully, Ya Allah, grant them all freedom. Ya Allah, allow us to have leaders which are pious and righteous and are conscious of you and fearing of you, O Allah. And those who have the interests of the ummah before their own interest at hand, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, those who are sincere, grant us those leaders, Ya Allah, and protect us from evil all of the time, whether they're in the form of shayateen or whether they're in the form of people. Ya Allah, liberate and grant freedom to all of those who are wanting their rights and those who are wronged, Ya Allah, and in search of their hukuk, Ya Allah. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun al mursaleen. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen bi rahmatika ya. Jazakumullahu khair.